Are you ready for rapid fire, Vince?
I am ready for rapid fire.
Because this takes us into what we're starting off rapid fire with. Fill in the blank. All the uproar about Notre Dame never being able to get a first-round college football playoff bye after the new 12-team format was finalized yesterday is blank.
Hilarious. It's like, were these people in hibernation over the last 2 years? And what's with the national media bringing it up all of a sudden? Like, this is new news. This is almost 2.5 years old, this news. I believe it came out in 2021.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
What
it's
are we
been nearly 3
about?
years. I think it was like the summer of 21 was when this first came out. So it's been nearly 3 years.
Almost 3.
The only difference in this is they switched it instead of 6 automatic qualifiers and 6 at-large bids, which was the original draft. The only difference is there are 5 automatic qualifiers and 7 at-large bids. That's the only difference. In either case, Notre Dame was not going to be able to get one of the top 4 seats.
Right.
That's the same. It's exactly the same.
It's never changed. And it actually gets better for Notre Dame because there's another at-large bid now. So,
right.
I mean, what's the problem here? What? And the funny thing is, it's not even Notre Dame fans that are complaining. It's people that just want to try to poke the bear of
It's the anti-Notre Dame people.
Yeah. Right. Join the conference. Stop whining. Nobody's whining. Like, anybody that understands the situation is not whining at all.
Right. It is just uninformed garbage.
Yes.
Is all it is. Because again, people are talking about this like Notre Dame is being penalized. And this is the latest reason that Notre Dame needs to join a conference when Jack Swarbrick is one of the people who was in the room. He was literally in the room with the Greg Sankeys and the rest of the players of the world. Like, it was conference commissioners and a school athletic director, Jack Swarbrick.
Yes.
So think about that for a minute if you're trying to criticize this. The people who were in charge of entire conferences, Jack Swarbrick was sitting in the room with them designing this format. And, again, like a few years ago when the news broke that there was going to be expansion of the playoff, you and I were doing the radio show together before we started doing this show. And, again, the format was a little different back then. It was the 6+6 as opposed to the 5+7, which is what they approved this week. But, again, like one of the big things that stood out was, Notre Dame's never going to get a bye in all this. And Jack Swarbrick agreed to this.
Jack Swarbrick helped write the plan, folks.
Right. But again, this is, I'm flashing back to like almost 3 years ago when we were talking about it. And, I don't think either one of us really cared for a system. Our initial knee-jerk reaction was, wow, Notre Dame's never going to get a bye. Why would they agree to this? Why would they want this? But again, then you sit back and you look at it, and we both changed our thinking on it, as we looked at it, because you look at it closer. Again, this is Notre Dame's concession to not being in a conference.
Correct.
This doesn't mean Notre Dame needs to be in a conference. This is Notre Dame's concession to not being in a conference, because the teams that are in a conference, obviously, the best teams, are going to have to play in a conference championship game, game number 13. If you win your conference title game and you're ranked as one of the top 4, you get a first-round bye. The other 8 teams, like, there's going to be a conference champion. There's going to be a 5th conference champion that's not going to get a first-round bye either.
Correct.
And, so since Notre Dame doesn't have to jump through that hoop playing that 13th game, as we've said plenty of times on this show, they're, I don't know if you want to count, not necessarily even consolation. They don't have to play that extra game, but if they're ranked 5 through 8, they're going to get to host a first round playoff game. It's one of the prices that you pay to remain independent.
Right.
And that's why Jack Swarbrick negotiated this.
Yes.
He wasn't saddled with this. He wasn't stuck with this. Jack Swarbrick negotiated this because Notre Dame wants to remain independent. It is just another piece to the puzzle for Notre Dame being able to remain independent going forward. They have better access to the college football playoff. They still have their own TV contract. They're going to get to host, college football playoff games, and they don't have to play a conference championship game. It's part of the deal. They know it. They knew it going in. So, like, anyone raising a stink about this just hasn't looked that closely at it at all.
And look, bottom line, right? A conference champion, okay, needs to win 4 games to win the college football playoff. The conference championship, 3 playoff games.
Right.
Guess how many games Notre Dame has to win? 4 games, 4 rounds in the college football championship. So tell me what the difference is. You know who really gets screwed in this? The person that was in the conference championship and lost. They have to lose 1 and then win 4 more. They're the ones that are getting screwed out of this whole deal.
Right.
Not Notre Dame at all. Right. Not Notre Dame. So
right. Well, and that you don't have to risk injury. You don't have to prepare for a game. You don't have to travel to a game. You don't have to play that game. You get to sit back for a few weeks, watch conference championship weekend. You're off that weekend. You get to, your guys get to rest a little bit. You get back to practice and you start preparing for the actual playoff game. It's a game that they don't have to worry about. It's like
3 weeks.
It's really just semantics when you
Yeah.
think about it. It's just or not even some. It's just like a little shell game. It's like, okay, we're going to play this game here, potentially at home.
Yeah.
Again, rather than have to travel, get ready for a game, risk injury, all these different things. And if you're hosting that first round game, you're going to play the number 12 seed one. If you're the number 5 seed, you're going to play a lower seeded team. You're going to get to be at home. You're going to help your local economy.
Yeah.
You're going to help your own economy, pocketbooks, selling home tickets, and the playoff, I'm sure, because it's a playoff
right,
game,
but there's
is going to get a share,
concessions.
but you're still going to
the other
that's
parts,
right.
all
That's
the
exactly
other
right.
part. And I don't want to harp on this too long, but I will bring up Joe's comment here. He says, not trying to be negative, but the committee doesn't really like Notre Dame. It's not guaranteed that they will be ranked 5 through 8, even if they're undefeated. Number one, there is an absolute guarantee if they're undefeated that they will be ranked 5 through 8. I'll take that one to the bank. And number two, the committee has actually never shown that they dislike Notre Dame.
Right.
I would say if there's ever any question, Notre Dame gets the benefit of the doubt every time.
And remember, it's
every
a different
time.
committee every year. It's not the same.
That's also true.
Number of the committee just turned over. Like, Boo Corrigan, who was the chair of the committee the last 2 years, he's no longer part of it. So it turns over all the time. It's not the same group of people evaluating it. And there are former Notre Dame people who are part of the committee, as well.
Yep.
So
I disagree that.
But you're absolutely right. It's actually like if Notre Dame stays undefeated, the committee has actually been very favorable to them in the past. Very favorable.
100%.
Like typically where Notre Dame has hurt itself is, remember, when they went out to Fenway Park and, like they what was 2015 when like things fell apart for them towards the end of the season. Like if they had just taken care of their own business,
they were going
to be in the playoff at that point.
Yeah, so. They've been very good to Notre Dame. I will say. And I guarantee you, if I ask this question to Brian, he'd be able to come up with all the different scenarios and facts to back me up. But I've heard him give that argument before. And so I know that the committee has been very good to Notre Dame. So
yes. DK, by the way, thank you for the super chat. Give Jesse his $2 back. So
that's fantastic.
I love it. All right, so on the same general subject, a little bit shift. So they were talking about this on First Take today. You had Stephen A. Smith, he had Feinbaum on, and I don't know who was with him, but Stephen A. Smith went on a "Why is Notre Dame relevant considering they haven't won a championship in 36 years" rant today on his show. Your answer to Stephen A. Smith's simplistic question is what?
Eyeballs. That's my simplistic answer. Eyeballs. They're relevant because they get eyeballs and they make money. They make money for whatever city that they're playing in. They make money for whatever TV network they're on. They make you money and they bring eyeballs to the table. That's why they're relevant. And whenever that ceases to be the case, and they're not winning on the field, then fine. They're not relevant anymore. That's never going to happen. I'm sorry, but it's true. That's why they're relevant. Sorry, Steven.
I should issue this disclaimer. He said this on First Take, and I don't watch First Take, and I wasn't watching today, but it quickly made the rounds on social media.
I did. I saw the video, but I didn't listen to it. I didn't want to be jaded when I answered the question.
Yeah.
But I did see it making its rounds today.
Right. Yeah. But guess what? what goes viral on social media? Hot takes on at least somewhat relevant
On
topics.
relevant
right?
topics.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
That's right. So Stephen A. Smith might tick you off, but he knows what he was doing. Like, do you think that he genuinely believes Notre Dame has no relevance? He knew that there was a very good chance that just by talking about this and by going off on this,
Oh,
he
yeah.
spent 3.5 minutes talking about irrelevant Notre Dame, according to, the words that actually came out of his mouth, right? Like, Notre Dame might not have won a championship since 1988, but you know what helped Notre Dame get that NBC TV contract that's more than 30 years old? Winning that championship. Winning that championship. And the fact that they have some relevance behind them. Notre Dame's kept ponying up, to renew that TV contract over the last 30 years. And why does ESPN and ABC televise all these games? Because they're relevant. You know, it's like there's a difference between competitive relevance and zeitgeist relevance, basically. Two completely different conversations. Notre Dame polarizes people and moves the needle.
Sure.
And Stephen A. wouldn't have been talking about him otherwise. He knew exactly what he was doing when he brought this up. He was talking about him because he knows there's actually relevance to Notre Dame. In his world, the world of TV ratings and clicks, and, again, going viral and all this, he knew that this was something that would blow up on social media. It was the perfect social media topic. That's exactly why he brought it up. So for him to say otherwise,
it's just hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's why these writers are putting stuff out about Notre Dame not being able to be in the top 4 and get a bye. Like, we've all known that, but go ahead and put it out there and get your clicks and get your, get us talking about it and, all these different things. Like, it's because they're relevant.
Yeah.
Okay. Period. And look, and I mean this with love, right? When was the last time the Cowboys won a Super Bowl?
I mean, we're going on 30 years for that as well.
Are they still relevant?
But how many of these different shows, whether it's First Take or Get Up or whatever, on, SVP at night, Cowboys lead, and you can have the exact same conversation about them, whether or not they are actually relevant. And there are some, like Cal Brandt, like Jesse, Cal Brandt on Good Morning Football on the NFL Network just drives Jesse nuts because Kyle, has basically, it's like, look, they're the Cowboys. Because of the Cowboys, we've got to talk about them. But I'm really tired of talking about the Cowboys until they prove they can do something when it matters. The Cowboys or Dak Prescott or Jerry Jones or whoever. And quite frankly, I have fallen into that same category as a Cowboys fan as Cal Brandt. Like, I'm tired of people. I don't want to talk about them either. Put up or shut up at this point.
Yeah.
But your point is taken because they're the Cowboys, because it's Notre Dame, because it's the Yankees or the Red Sox or the LA Lakers. They're going to be talked about because all of those teams polarize. And polarization draws people from both sides. And whether you love them or hate them, you're going to sit there and listen. You're either going to retweet it because you hate them, and you're like, see, just like is going on in the last 24 hours with all this Notre Dame stuff, or you're going to yell at the guy because you're a fan and you love him. And that's exactly why people talk about all these different teams like that.
Absolutely. Look, the Cubs won. Obviously, they won the World Series. It was awesome. But they were still relevant up to that point.
Yeah.
They would still get Sunday Night Baseball. They would still, because they get eyeballs.
Right.
People care and they want to watch.
Right.
That will always be the case. So if you're going
to, the reason you still get Yankees Red Sox games nationally televised when neither team is in playoff contention
all the time.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yep.
Okay, fill in the blank. It's blank that the ACC has approved the use of helmet technology and sideline tablets during games this season.
It's about freaking time. Okay, I've been out of high school coaching for the last couple of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so I coached high school for 15 years. For about the last 5 to 7, we had live review or live replay on the sideline on our tablets.
Really?
Yes. Why could high schools in the inner city of South Bend have this technology, but you can't have it in college?
Right.
That makes zero sense to me. At 0 cents. I've never understood it. It's about time that they, have this technology.
I completely agree. And it's like when you hear this and you sit there and think about it, and you've got this sign stealing scandal,
Yep.
running through college football last year, and the team that is accused of it ends up winning the national championship. And the NFL has it, like the tablet stuff specifically. It's like the headset stuff I knew that college football didn't have, but like the sideline tablet, like that seems pretty natural
Right.
that they
Well,
should have that. And I guess it's,
yeah.
a financial deal is what people have tried to say, why
Come
it hasn't
on.
been done. Are you kidding me? With all these billions
Come
of dollars
on.
that are changing hands, we just got done talking about the college football playoff, the billions of dollars there, the billions of dollars that are changing hands with these TV contracts for the SEC and the Big Ten and everybody else. There's no reason that in college football, especially Power 5, that for a few $1,000s, that should be the holdup. Everyone should have it at this point. It's 2024.
It's not complicated technology, I can tell you that. I would set it up every time for a Friday night football game, and as long as you had an iPad or an iPhone, you tap into it, you open the app, you got replay.
Yeah.
You draw on it, you can push it up onto a TV. Like, we used to set up a flat screen TV underneath a 10 by 10 tent, that you use for tailgating, put it on a table, and I would push the video from my iPad onto the thing, and I'd be coaching up the guys on the offense when the defense was on the field. Hey, this is what you did wrong. You didn't step here. You didn't do like it is instantaneous. It's awesome. Yeah. It's awesome. Again, you're telling me that an inner city South Bend public school can afford that, but Notre Dame and the Power 5 and all these other schools can't? Come on. That is not an argument that holds water, number one. And then you talk about the communication in the helmet. Now, obviously, they don't have that in high school, but you can communicate dugout to catcher now, by the way, in one-way radio. Just
in high school.
In high school. Yes, you can.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
I knew they started that in college a few years ago.
So
but that's another thing. That. Like if college baseball can be doing that, there's a lot more money in college football.
Right.
Why hasn't college football been doing something similar?
So, but you know why they're doing the helmet, the coach to helmet technology now? It's because of the Michigan scandal. The NCAA is so reactionary.
Right.
That's the problem. Right. That's the problem.
And
and Paul says, are we talking about helmet communication? We're talking about that and the fact you can now have a tablet on the sidelines.
You can have tablets and there's going to be
so it's both.
Helmet communication. And to me, the helmet communication, like, again, I didn't realize that you couldn't with the tablets before. It just seems like as long as that stuff has been out there and the fact that you see every NFL game and guys on the sideline scroll, like how they didn't have that. But the helmet thing, again, it's like the NFL has had this for at least probably 20 years now, right? Like 15 or 20 years with the helmet communication.
The helmet communication for sure. Yeah.
Push the tablets aside. Let's just talk about the helmet communication.
Gotcha.
The helmet communication, like, it seems so simple.
It is.
Because like all the coaches have headsets. They're wired to the guys in the press box. Like it seems like a very simple fix instead of, the guys with the signs and, like decoy guys on the sidelines doing the signals and all this. Like, why are we relying on that? That is literally stuff from the 1950s when they've had the technology to just put a little speaker in the quarterback's helmet for decades now. Why have they not been doing it?
And it's not like it's two-way. It's literally a speaker. I don't know why it took so long. It makes no sense to me. It makes 0 sense to me. But I guess good on them for finally saying it's okay.
Well, and it seems like the helmet companies themselves, like you just say, okay, this is going to be a quarterback's helmet, and they just put a speaker in the helmet.
Right?
How does it need to be more difficult than that?
It's not. That's the thing.
And really, all these companies to get, whether it's like Motorola or, like
Coachcom.
Yeah. Like whatever, company like Beats or, whoever, happens to be the sponsor. Like you see the coaches with the logos on the side. and stuff like that. It's like it just seems like an easy, like those companies want to be involved with high profile programs. It's like you put a logo on a headset, or you put, a little bit of signage in the background, and the companies will probably give you most of that equipment just for using it.
And it's not expensive to begin with. That's the thing.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. I think we're all in agreement on that. Or most of us. You and I are in agreement on that. So J.J. Watt wants to see more holding flags thrown on offensive linemen trying to block defensive players. Shock, former defensive lineman.
Yeah, exactly.
3 more flags thrown. Watt says the way to do it is to reduce the penalty for holding from 10 yards to 5 yards. So right now, a holding call, offensive player is flagged for holding, 10-yard penalty. Pretty standard across the board everywhere. So he says drop it from 10 to 5. He says if you do that, it's more likely to be called more fairly because it's not as crippling to the offense. Do you buy or sell that?
That's a huge sell for me, and here's why. I think if it's a 5-yard penalty, I think holding gets worse. I think there's going to be more holding because it's only a 5-yard penalty.
Right.
I think it's going to get worse. I think that's the exact opposite thing that you would want to do. I really do. If you want people to stop holding, make the penalty worse. Like make the penalty more severe. I'm completely opposite of what J.J. Watt says here. And now, do I think that it needs to be called more? Sure. There's holding on every play, right? And some of the stuff you saw, some of the replay on the Super Bowl, like there looked like there were some pretty egregious holds that were not called. Okay, I'm on board with that. But call it. I mean, call the penalty if you see it. I just making it a 5-yard penalty is going to make you want to hold more.
And because I completely agree with that. Like if you want to reduce holding, make the penalty stiffer, not easier. Because because of what you're saying, an offensive lineman is like, oh, get J.J. Watt or T.J. Watt, either one of them across from me. If I'm only going to be flagged for 5 yards, what's the big deal? I'm just going to I'm going to hold on to this guy even more and make sure he doesn't get to my quarterback. And the quarterback might just issue bonuses. It's like, I don't care how many holding calls you get, just keep that guy away from me. I completely agree. I think it's stupid. And again, I think this is, a really good defensive end who's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, who is used to being held, and he just, he got sick of being held all the time, and in his eyes, not having enough holding calls thrown. People don't want to see more penalties anyway.
No.
And that's the thing, is all the officials have to they have to sort of differentiate. It's like, how severe is the holding? Because there is holding on every play. How severe is it? Is this actually worth throwing a flag?
Right.
In this case. So I think it's complete. I think it's complete BS. I think J.J. Watt is, yeah. So I saw a college basketball writer tweet after the Super Bowl that if the Super Bowl can kick off at 6:30, why does the NCAA men's basketball national championship game not tip off until 9:30? So my question to you, what would you do with college basketball's title game if you could wave your magic wand and make the decision?
Okay. Number one, the writer in question, it's not apples to apples, because the Super Bowl's on the weekend and the NCAA championship is on a Monday night. And so it's earlier because nobody on the West Coast has to get home from work. I shouldn't say nobody. The majority of the people aren't coming home from work on a Sunday. They can start it earlier. On Monday, they have to wait for the West Coast people to get home so they can get as many eyeballs on the game as possible.
Right.
So it starts at 9:20 because that's 6:20 out west, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're stuck. They don't really have a choice when they start the game on Monday. Now, if I am the czar of college basketball, you move the championship to a weekend. Now, the hard part about that is, when do you have the two Final Four games? Because right now they're on Saturday.
And you also have to factor in the women's Final Four. Because
very good point.
Because I think last year the women's championship game was on ABC, but it tipped off at like 3:30 in the afternoon or something like that.
Yeah.
And it actually got really good ratings because Caitlin Clark was playing in it and
Sure.
all that kind of, but that is part of the fact, because like they've moved the women's back and forth. It's like, they've played it on Sundays before, they've played it as far as
Yeah,
Tuesdays
right.
before. To me, I would just, look, the first 2 weekends of the NCAA tournament, you've got games going all day, Thursday and Friday,
Sure do.
that first weekend, as well as Saturday and Sunday. And then the next weekend, Sweet 16 and Elite 8, you start off at like 7:30 or something like that. With why not just make the semifinals on a Thursday, play the national championship game on a Saturday night? And then for the women's, you play them Friday night and Sunday. Like,
right.
it seems like an easy solution because of it's the reason it's so late is what you're talking about. You have to wait for the West Coast people to get home on a Monday. If you play it on a weekend, you don't have to wait for that.
Exactly. And they do double headers at night all the time on weekdays, because we're talking about the Final Four, right? They do like Big Monday and all this other crap. Like they do a 7 and a 9 o'clock game all the time. Like how many times have I gone to like a Notre Dame men's game at 9 o'clock on a Thursday? You know what I mean? So that's not out of the ordinary.
Right.
So you can do your Final Four games on Thursday. You do your national championship game on Saturday. And then you, like you said, women on Friday and Sunday. I think that's the fix right there. Monday night is a terrible time to do it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't like that in any way, shape, or form. Just
Monday
at
9:30, especially because even Monday night football starts by 8:30. Like if you're like at the very least, make it, let it start at 8:30.
Exactly.
Like 9:30 just seems ridiculous.
Which is
but
also another reason why they shouldn't have the college football national championship on a Monday night either. That's dumb too, because football lasts longer than basketball, and it should not be on a Monday night. That is the worst idea ever.
Nope. I mean, I think like I said, all you've got to do, they've played these tournament games on weeknights anyway. What's the difference if you put the Final Four on a Thursday night or a Friday night, then play a championship on a Saturday or a Sunday? Like, that seems like the easy solution. Whether or not they would ever want to do it, I don't know.
Right. I know. It's tradition to have it on Monday.
Thank you, Ryan Roberts' forehead. It sounds like he might be checking out. And he says, tip of the hat.
Tip of the hat.
Chief Brody wants to know where we get the rapid fire content.
From the brains of Sean Stiers and Vince D'Addario when Sean Stiers isn't there. And then I usually get a nice assist from Stiers Jr. Usually throws in a question or two. Yeah. Which is always nice. But yeah, man. From the old brains, mostly yours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like if you want more specifics than that, I literally have a couple of Word documents where if like things come up and I'll see it, I'll like paste it in there.
Oh, nice.
The more relevant or the more timely, the more the topic gets pushed up to the top. But there are plenty of, what we call evergreen stuff that we can save, it literally comes from scrolling through Twitter to see, like what actually, and I've said this before. I don't use nut job Twitter, like because some jabronis out there tweeting some stuff. I'm not going off, but it like go, between Twitter, watching the different sports networks and whatever else. It's like literally, there's just always something going on. Always looking for content, so I'll sit there and like if I see something, I'll like I said, I'll screenshot it or save it. Or if I'm listening to a podcast and I'm, like I'll open my notes and I'll say, oh, that's a good one, and I'll just write down, jot down a little note. So, Gregory, thank you for the super chat, sir. How are you able to tell the difference between scheme and player talent when watching football? People don't like Jared Parker due to issues with his scheme, even though there was team statistical success.
Well, that's a really good question, Gregory.
But it's deep too.
I mean, it is very deep, and I don't know that I can just sit here and answer it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's something that you have to kind of show on video, on film, and show the difference, right? I mean, player talent, like, okay, here's I guess the best example I can come up with. Audric Estime literally running guys over and breaking tackles is player talent, not scheme. Players scheme would be your formations to get a matchup that is beneficial to the offense and then taking advantage of that, right? So I think, Gregory, I think this is a really good question because people claim they didn't like Jared Parker's scheme and all of that, but he had a lot of success with his offense. Now, I think what sticks out to people are like the end of the Ohio State game, for example, or, things of that nature. And that's what sticks out. And you're like, well, why did they throw a screen pass? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, I get that. You can't boil down an entire offense to one game. I mean, or one series of one game, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think Jared Parker did a really good job with scheme, to be honest with you, but he also had good players that made plays. So it's a little bit of both, but yeah, I think you make a really good point, Gregory, and I appreciate the question.
No, and I mean it's literally, NFL teams spend a lot of time and money on trying to differentiate this every year.
Oh yeah,
like that's how you get conversations like how good is Caleb Williams really when he played in Lincoln Riley's system for 3 years, and he had a great year 1 year, won a Heisman Trophy, and then regressed the next year. And there have been a lot of guys who have played in that system where it's like, how good really is he? And like how much of it comes down to, the fact that Ohio State has NFL wide receivers all over the place, but CJ Stroud to this point has been one of a handful of actual successful former Ohio State quarterbacks in the NFL. All those different things, the level of competition that you're playing against. Are you just that much better than the teams that you're playing against? It's tough, but
yeah.
That's where guys get paid a lot of money to try to differ. And again, like when you boil it down, most of the success that Jared Parker and that offense had was against the teams that weren't quite as good on the schedule, whereas the difficulties that they had were against the better teams on the schedule.
Yeah, and it was interesting because and this isn't anything against you. It is too simple to say that, though, because I thought his scheme was really good against those teams. And I thought when they went up against
also have to perform.
Sure. But I think going up against the harder opponents, I feel like some of his scheme went away. And he almost overly simplified the offense versus better opponents. Right. I thought he was way more creative against the lesser opponents. And if he would have used that against Ohio State, they win that game going away. So that honestly, that was the frustrating part for me of the offense this past season was we saw the creativity. We saw the good scheme, but it was like he was afraid to do that against the better opponents. That I guess is my biggest issue with the offense.
No, that's a good point. Well, I think that's going to do it for tonight. Good stuff. Good questions tonight. Finished up strong with a really good question there.
Yeah, it was.
As well.
Thanks for the super chat.
That's right. All right, so we will wrap it up with that. Sounds like no show tomorrow, but Jesse and Vince and I will be back Friday with the 5 o'clock rapid fire show. And there's going to be, I don't know if you saw this, we're going to get to talk to Mike Denbrock.
I did see this.
And Max Bulla on Friday. So
I don't think we've ever talked to Max Bulla before. And obviously,
I don't think
so
either.
The first time that we get to hear from Denbrock. So should be good.
Yep. So expect some conversation on that. Expect to hear a little bit of a few comments from them. I think somebody got in late.
Yeah.
M. Glade 1989. He says, has the Stephen A. Smith question. I think he's asking if it has been talked about. It has.
Oh, yes.
Go back, rewind. We talked about it, maybe 30 or 40 minutes ago?
Yeah, right at the beginning of Rapid Fire, really.
Yeah, probably about a half hour ago. Go back to the start of Rapid Fire, if you can find the start of Rapid Fire. I think we started right about an hour into the show. So if you want to hear about college football playoff and how, and Notre Dame's place in that, as well as the Stephen A. Smith stuff.
Right.
We talked about it.
And we do have a super chat that we missed from Chief Brody. Thank you, Chief, for your super chat. Buy or sell claiming Notre Dame as champs in 2012. And he says Collie at the end.
I'm not sure.
I don't know who's claiming that,
missing?
But it's ridiculous. You can't claim a national championship when you get the doors blown off you in the national championship game. So I don't know where that's coming from, my guy, but we answered your question. It's a huge sell.
Yeah.
Huge sell.
Big sell. Yeah. I don't know why.
I don't know what the context is. I don't know why anybody would say that, but it's not. You can't do that.
Yeah. Again, M. Glade, the why is Notre Dame relevant? Stephen A. Smith stuff. We talked about it a half an hour ago. So if you want to go back, check that out, or just wait for Thursday morning and download the podcast. You can do that as well. It's right at the start of Rapid Fire. So we got that for you. Got you covered. All right. Hit the like button before you leave, please. And of course, subscribe, rate, and review. And we will talk to you Friday on IB Nation Sports Talk.